Let's talk about the WNBA Finals.
The WNBA Finals, the stage every player dreams of, where legacies are either written in fire or erased in silence. And this year, it wasn't just another championship series. It was a cultural moment. Caitlin Clark had carried the Indiana Fever from irrelevance to the heart of the basketball world. Across from her stood the Las Vegas Aces, the reigning queens.
I believe y'all don't care. I think y'all care about the drama around it. I do believe that, but I don't think you care about the events itself. And judging by ticket prices, neither does anybody else.
The dynasty in motion, the team that had made dominance look routine. But as Game 1 tipped off, it was clear. This wouldn't be a coronation. It was a collision. From the first possession, the tension was thick enough to taste. Kelsey Plum and Jackie Young played with that trademark Aces swagger, but Clark didn't blink. She met the moment with poise beyond her years.
If ever there was proof that the Caitlin Clark fans / Fever fans are now the overwhelming majority of the fandom, look at ticket prices for finals games.
The Fever had come prepared, armed with veterans like Sophie Cunningham and Natasha Howard, women who understood what it meant to fight for every inch. Every possession felt like a statement, every basket like a declaration that Indiana was no longer afraid. By halftime, the scoreline was tight, but the tone had shifted. The Aces were frustrated. Aaliyah Wilson, the two-time MVP.
Game 1, the get-in price for Game 1 matchup between the Aces and the Mercury for a WNBA Finals game. Holy hell, there's $35 seats right there. Right there. Plenty of good seats available.
Found herself surrounded by bodies every time she touched the ball. The Fever were physical, relentless, and unapologetic. Caitlin Clark wasn't just orchestrating, she was dictating. Her vision, her precision, her fearlessness, it was mesmerizing. Then came the third quarter. Las Vegas tried to impose their will.
Look at that. Wow, $35 whole. This might be the best part of the video for the WNBA, because when you gauge the interest, to gauge the interest of this series, and it was ugly.
Chelsea Gray pushed the tempo. Plum hunted mismatches, and the crowd roared as the Aces regained momentum. But Clark answered with a deep three, logo range, pure confidence. And suddenly the energy changed again. You could feel the shift in the arena. Every shot she took, every pass she threaded, it was like the heartbeat of a revolution. The Fever weren't supposed to be here, but they were rewriting the narrative in real time. And it wasn't just about basketball anymore. This finals was about identity, respect, and the changing face of the WNBA.
With DeWanna Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, and the Mercury in the finals against Aaliyah Wilson and the Aces, will you be locked in watching this series? ? Yes or no? Hit the poll. 4% of brave souls said yes. 96% said hail to the no.
By the fourth quarter, fatigue set in. Both teams traded blows like heavyweights in the final round. Wilson battled inside with Aaliyah Boston. Power versus poise, experience versus emerging dominance. Cunningham jawed at the Aces bench after drilling a corner three, while Howard clapped in Wilson's face after forcing a turnover. The Fever had attitude, and it wasn't fake. This was earned. Every hard screen, every box out, every defensive rotation screamed one thing: we belong. And Caitlin Clark, she was everywhere. Diving for loose balls, drawing fouls, pointing out mismatches. The rookie who had been criticized for being too soft was taking elbows and smiling.
Guys, if the Fever and Caitlin Clark was playing in a finals game, let's say against the Mercury, with all that drama around there, would there be a single ticket less than $300? Now, I mean, honestly, a single ticket less than $300. I don't think so. I think you'd have courtside seats go for $5,000. If Caitlin Clark was playing, if she was in these finals along with the Fever.
It wasn't about revenge. It was about arrival. The game clock ticked under a minute. Fever up 2. The Aces called timeout. The camera panned to Clark, her face calm, her eyes locked in. You could almost read her lips. Let's finish it. Then, out of the timeout, Vegas ran a play for Wilson. She spun baseline, elevated, and missed. Boston grabbed the rebound, kicked it to Clark, who got trapped near half court. 2 defenders swarmed her, and then, in a flash of brilliance, she whipped a no-look pass to Lexi Hull cutting to the rim. Layup, game. The Fever bench exploded. Clark pumped her fist, screamed toward the sky, and for a moment, it felt like destiny was unfolding in real time. Indiana had stolen Game 1 on the road. The league wasn't ready for this, but the fans were. Social media erupted. The Caitlin Clark era is here, one headline read, but to her, it wasn't about proving the doubters wrong. It was about proving herself right. And as she walked off the floor, exchanging nods with veterans who once questioned her toughness, the message was clear. The future had arrived, and it wore number 22. The Fever's celebration was loud but controlled, because they knew the job wasn't done. Coach Stephanie White's voice echoed in the locker room. You wanted respect? You earn it every night. The team nodded. Clark sat silently for a moment, staring at the stat sheet. 28 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds, and smiled. She knew the Aces would come back harder, but so would she. For the first time, the Indiana Fever weren't chasing anyone. They were being chased. Game 2 of the WNBA Finals was different from the start. The Las Vegas Aces looked furious, almost insulted that Indiana had dared to steal one in their house. Aja Wilson came out like a storm. Elbows sharp, eyes cold, every possession a personal mission. Jackie Young was cutting harder, Kelsey Plum jawing louder, and Chelsea Gray was orchestrating chaos. The Fever, though, didn't fold. Caitlin Clark walked onto the court with the same quiet defiance that had defined her entire season. She'd heard the noise. The media calling Game 1 a fluke. The critics saying she couldn't survive 2 games against the Aces' physicality. But when the ball tipped, she played like she was born for this. The Aces blitzed her from the jump. Double teams, traps, shoves off the ball. But she adjusted instantly, threading passes through impossible angles, setting up Boston for mid-range jumpers, and Howard for hard rolls to the rim. The Fever bench was electric. Every bucket met with a chorus of belief. Still, the Aces were relentless. Wilson scored inside, drew contact, and screamed toward her bench as if to remind the world who the reigning MVP was. But this wasn't the same Fever team from May or June. They didn't panic. Cunningham bumped Wilson back down the floor. Lexi Hull clapped in Plum's face, and the tension grew. It wasn't just competition anymore. It was psychological warfare. By halftime, the Aces led by 6, but there was doubt in their eyes. Clark hadn't even found her rhythm yet. She was pacing herself, studying, calculating. When the third quarter started, she exploded. 3 straight triples, 2 from beyond the logo, 1 off a broken play that sent the Fever bench into a frenzy. The crowd went silent, even in Vegas. For every answer the Aces had, Clark had a counterpunch. But basketball has a way of humbling even the best. Late in the fourth, the Aces made a run. Wilson hit back-to-back jumpers. Gray picked Clark's pocket, and suddenly Vegas was up 3 with under a minute to go. Timeout Fever. Stephanie White drew up a play that would either tie the game or define the series. Clark brought the ball up, eyes scanning, the noise deafening. She crossed over Gray, stepped back from the wing, and let it fly. Swish. Tie game. The arena gasped. The clock read 12.7 seconds. But Vegas had the final possession. Plum drove, dished to Wilson, who rose up over Boston. The shot bounced, rolled, and dropped. Game over. Series tied 1-1. The handshake line was ice cold. Wilson and Clark locked eyes. No words, just mutual acknowledgement. The war had only begun. When the series shifted to Indianapolis, the entire city turned red and gold. Fans lined up around Gainbridge Fieldhouse hours before tip-off, holding signs that read, "Believe in 22" and "Not scared of Vegas." Game 3 was chaos. The Fever fed off the home crowd. Sophie Cunningham hit early shots, Boston bullied the paint, and Clark played conductor again. Fast breaks, skip passes, dimes in traffic. The Aces kept pace until Clark detonated in the third, 17 points in 6 minutes. Every time she hit a shot, the building shook. By the end of 3 quarters, Indiana led by 12. They never looked back. When the buzzer sounded, Clark raised her hands, soaking in the moment as chants of MVP filled the arena. But again, the Aces wouldn't go quietly. Game 4 was their response. Physical, bruising, almost violent. Wilson dropped 31 and 14. Clark shot just 6 of 20, clearly worn down from the pounding. Vegas tied the series 2-2, forcing a decisive Game 5 back in their building. And that's where legends are made. Under the bright lights of Las Vegas, Clark walked out to a mixture of cheers and boos. The Aces crowd was ruthless, but she smiled. It fueled her. From the opening tip, it was a slugfest. Wilson and Boston traded blows in the post. Plum and Mitchell exchanged buckets, and Clark orchestrated like a maestro under pressure. Midway through the fourth, the Fever trailed by 5. Clark took a deep breath, dribbled up, and hit back-to-back threes from the parking lot. Tie game. Then, with 23 seconds left, Indiana up 1, Vegas had possession. Wilson caught it on the block, spun, shot, and Boston blocked it clean. Clark grabbed the rebound, got fouled, and walked to the line. 2 free throws to seal the championship. She bounced the ball twice, exhaled, and swished both. When the buzzer sounded, she dropped to her knees, overwhelmed. The Indiana Fever were champions of the WNBA. The rookie who had been doubted, targeted, and tested had just led her team to glory. Confetti rained. Sophie Cunningham hugged Clark, yelling, "You did it!" Coach White smiled through tears. The cameras zoomed in on Clark, holding the finals MVP trophy, eyes wet but fierce. "This is just the beginning," she said. And everyone watching knew she was right. The WNBA had just changed forever.
You are not invested, you are not interested in watching this BS transpire on your television set.